Hey everybody, this is Ask the Sensei for April 4th, 2018. We have I'm Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo. And thank you. And our Techno Sensei, Dan Lenard, will be joining us shortly. And we are very pleased to have with us today our guest sensei, Debi Derryberry, who is animation goddess on both sides of the glass. She's the talent and she's the coach and she's amazing. And it looks like we have so many great people here. It's fantastic. Dan's here. Let me promote you to panelists, Dan.
Oh, Mark is here. Can people hear me?
He's here.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan. Good. So I'm going to put up, hi, Dan, welcome. Just introduced you. I'm going to put up a little poll if everybody can take a second to sort of check where you are on your voiceover journey. It helps us gauge where people are at in terms of how we're sharing information. And then also, if you want to put in the chat where you're calling from, that's always cool to figure out where everything is or where everyone is calling from. So, Mark from Carlsbad, New Orleans, Chicago, Anaheim, San Antonio. All right.
Oh, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to see the star.
The star, and there's Samir. Yay. All right. So, excellent, guys. So, I'm going to have Dan and Debbie talk a little bit about who they are and what they're up to, and then as they're doing that, I'm sorry. You can't see the poll, so that's why no one's filling it in. Hi, there it is. How about that? That you can do that in the background, and then. This is Ask the Sensei, so it is a free-form question and answer call. So the key to that is the question part. So we won't be able to hear you, but on the bottom bar of your Zoom call, there's a thing that says Q&A, and that is where you can type in your questions. So we'll start taking those as soon as they start coming in. And Dan, can you introduce yourself real quick? And
did you say Deb or Dan?
Oh, I said Dan, and then we'll have Deb.
I think it should be ladies first.
Okay, well, Deb, can you introduce yourself?
I'm no lady.
No lady.
Hi, I am Debi Derryberry. This is my fun studio. That's my booth over there that Dan helped me build. That is really cute. I'm going to turn on the lights so you can see it. And I wear purple, so I'd match it today.
Ta-da!
And let's see. Most people would know me for being the voice of Jimmy Neutron, right? There. And here's a lot of other cartoons I've done. I actually pulled my Addams Family jacket today to wear because it was cold. I started out just talking like a baby, like a little girl, and then lo and behold, I got into little boy voices, and now I feel comfortable with all different voices from infant to ancient, male, female. Okay, I don't do boys above 14 years old, really. And I started coaching a lot. I wrote a book called Voiceover 101, and I have trouble sitting still, which you can see. And, I wrote this book that you can get on Amazon, Kindle, Creative Space, whatever that's called. I do voiceover all day, every day. I audition from home. I audition at other places. I'm on lots of cartoons. And I pretty much, I love animation, commercial, looping, video games, the whole thing. And, thank God there's a way to make a living when you sound like me.
Exactly.
And I hope everybody follows me on all that stuff.
There's that, and we'll return to that at the end, too.
That's my intro.
Debbie, yay. And Dan, can you introduce yourself for a second?
Why, certainly. I've been doing this work since the beginning of time.
Since before I was born.
Yeah, well, yes. When dinosaurs roamed the earth. Now, I came out of the radio business, but I left that about 30 years ago and drifted back into voiceover at the turn of the century, back in Y2K, and been doing full-time voice work. And then people started to ask me lots of questions about how to set up home studios. So I've hung out a shingle, and now I teach people how to do it and help people build them and answer your questions and, have a real strong attitude about it. Ain't the equipment, guys. It's what's between your ears and what comes out of your mouth.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And I'm Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo. We're a full training program for voiceover based in Los Angeles, but we work with people from everywhere, all over the world. And it's the dojo is like stepping into full training for boxing is the equivalent of what you would do for voiceover at the dojo. So, excellent. So glad to see everyone here. We've got a couple of questions to start off with, and it looks like Dan, you're up first. Looking for a Studio One DAW trainer, Valeka says.
Okay.
RX6.
Yeah, let's see. Looking for a Studio One trainer.
Where Q&A. Okay, I got it. See it. Yeah.
The Q&A.
Studio One is a program that Presonus makes that comes with when they generally sell you an interface. They're here, try this. It's a big multi-track program, and unless you're doing full production in voiceover, unless you're making commercials, you're adding the music, you're adding the sound effects, you're doing all that stuff, which 99.99999% of the time you will not be doing. You do not need to learn how to do any of this stuff. Concentrate on being a great voice actor and the simplicity of a home studio and proper mic technique and proper acoustics, and don't waste your time with learning that stuff. It's not something that's going to help you. It is not about the equipment. It is not about the software. It is about learning how to use it properly, but there's no piece of software, no microphone, no preamp, no nothing out there that will change the way you perform copy. So get that out of your head now.
I wonder why she needs to know that. Wonder why she's wondering that.
Because she probably just got a free copy of it and she needs to learn how to use it. And unless she's a musician, there's no need to learn how to use that.
Okay.
You can go on a billion Facebook forums and they'll say, oh, use this. This will make you sound great. This will make you do this. This is great. I love this. This is all said by geeks, and geeks don't hire voice talent. So pay no attention to that. There's nothing that will give you an advantage except good acoustics and proper mic technique.
Okay.
Next question.
So she says she's purchased it. So is there someone that is there some, if she does need to know how to learn it, is that something that you help with?
That's when you hit the help button.
Okay.
And read the manual. And if you can follow it, fine and dandy. It's not going to help you learn anything. It's more important. She can use it. Just use it as a single track recorder, but it's like buying a control room for a nuclear reactor when you're trying to control a hamster running in a cage.
So it sounds like figuring out the basic functionality, unless you're doing something more complex than voiceover, is all you need.
Read the manual. Just learn to hit record and go.
Cool.
But I don't have an attitude about it.
Let's move on. We have an hour.
Okay, let's go to.
I have an answer for the clicking question. I have an answer to that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is that up?
Hold on one second. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Hold on one second. Where is the?
That's a good question. Christy Crossley asked.
Yeah. So let's Yeah, I think let's go to Jules' question, which I think will put the whole animation in context.
Okay.
We'll sketch back and forth between tech questions and other questions. So Jules' question is, how do I find if I'm capable of character voice work, and can I do it if I'm not in LA?
No, you can't do it if you're not in LA. If you want to do Nickelodeon, Disney, the cartoons you see on TV, no, you have to be in LA. But there are lots of things you can do in animation that are not recorded in LA. Things like on the pay-to-play sites, like say a Voice 123 or something. You look for a video game audition, you start auditioning for these sorts of things. I say pay attention to what you start booking. If you start booking munchkins, witches, teenagers, soldiers, then you know you're in the pocket. If you're not booking any of that, and you're booking audiobooks or e-learnings or things, commercials, maybe that's where your sweet spot is. And you can push and push and push as much as you want, but where people hire you, I think you'll have the best luck in pursuing that area. So if you start booking things in video games, well, then maybe that's where you'll know if you are capable of character voices. You can take private sessions on Zoom with Skype with any of us voice instructors. I coach a lot of animation, and I'm pretty frank with people. But keep in mind that a lot of cartoons that we audition for don't really want characters. They want utility voices, people that can do different voices, but it has to sound real, I guess. I hope that answers the question a little.
And I think also that if you're interested in character voices, then that's not something that you need permission. Like, are you capable? Of course, you can open your mouth and make anything have a voice. What's the voice of this pen? What's the voice of this cup? That's just imagination and nimble-mindedness, and then willingness to go full force and play and bring something to life. So that's not something, that's something you can find out right now. That is, I
didn't mean to imply that they couldn't find a character voice or do character voices.
No.
My interpretation of the question was more, could I work in the animation world? Maybe I interpreted it wrong.
No, I think both is true. So on the first part is exploring, and then what Debbie says, well, then put it out in the world and see what the response is. And if you want to do character voices and you're not in LA, then find out like a hungry who's making stuff, who's doing
libraries even. You can go read to the kids at the libraries. They love that stuff.
and get it going. And then if the hunger gets so fueled and what you want to do is do what Debbie does and have a wall full of animated characters be what you do all day, then make your plan to come to LA.
I was in Nashville, and I sent letters and my cassette demo to some casting directors out here, to Andrea Romano and Sue Blue and Jenny McSwain, and they all said, great demo, but you really need to live in LA. And this was a few decades ago. So I quickly moved out to LA. The story's still the same. It happens here.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Yes, and you're the one who gives yourself permission, I think, is also the real thing to remember that. And then you see who wants to play with you.
And like Dan said, this is an acting job.
Yes.
It has to be that you can bring it acting-wise. If you can do Bart Simpson's voice or do Superman or do the Joker, great. Guess what? They're not dead.
Not yet.
Right.
So, that's called impersonations. That's a different animal than animation character voices.
Right. Excellent. Well, here's another tech question. Dan, so hold on, it just flipped up. Jay asks, home studio quality can vary so much. What are the audio specs we should aim for? Noise floor, etc. A voiceless room, only recording should return what types of numbers?
Well, okay, if you're going to start looking at numbers and you're really good at math and you want to understand all that stuff, it's not going to help you. It's got to sound right. And there's only one way to find out if it sounds right, and that's to have someone who knows how it's supposed to sound listen to it and not futz with all of this stuff. It amazes me how much people completely, totally overthink this entire process, thinking that it's some magical formula or recipe to do this. When in reality, like I said off the top of the show with major attitude, it's all about proper acoustics, listening to see how much room reflection you have, proper mic technique, as I am displaying right now. Notice how it sounds like I'm in the same room with you. That's what it's supposed to be. The idea of your home studio is not to make you sound great. It's to make you sound like you. You as you exist in the environment in which you record. And everybody's like looking for this magical secret sauce that's going to give them some sort of advantage over somebody else. And again, it's not that. There are some basic numbers that we've set as some standards. Your noise floor should probably be under -55. If you don't know what that means, that's a really bad question to ask. You need to learn all these individual things, and take a webinar or get some private coaching with somebody who knows how to do this and get it done right. Trial and error is no way to get this done. You've got to work with somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. I could throw you a pile of numbers, but those numbers are going to make no sense if you don't know what they mean. And, it's not something that you're going to learn overnight, but it is something you got to learn to listen for. And once you hear proper examples of stuff, that's going to show you how it's supposed to sound. There was another thought I had in there, but Deb knows how many thoughts rattle around my head when it comes to this stuff.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
Just in addition to what Dan was saying, even if you're just using an iPad and Twisted Wave and a little microphone, you can listen back and you can send that audition to pretty much anybody and say, how does this sound? Does it sound roomy? Does it sound echoey? Does it sound good? When you listen to it, do you hear just the voice and not a lot of other stuff? That's all you need for a good audition. If you're doing VO for production, then you really have to be good at production, or go to a studio, which in LA are relatively cheap, and record it there. The studios are less money than they pay you for the job. So it usually works out okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's studios wherever you are, pretty much. Yes. I mean, you can pretty much find some sort of studio wherever.
But I do want to say that before you pursue getting a voice agent, have all your ducks in a row. Be ready. When you get an agent, they're going to send you auditions, and they're going to want those auditions turned around quickly and well. Mm-hmm. So don't put the cart before the horse. Okay? Ducks in a row. Demos made. Make sure you go on a pay-to-play site and start busting out auditions until you can book them, until you can turn them around in 10 minutes. Otherwise, you're not ready to play.
Mm-hmm. So again, in terms of the specifics, the idea is to be able to understand what you're listening for, and then be able to that you don't need. It's not necessarily going by numbers. It's about going by sound, and you develop your ear by working with somebody who can say, "This is it. Do you hear this? This is what you're listening for." Right. So yeah, it's interesting. I planted my garden. Someone else put my garden in for me last year, and this year I'm like, oh, it's garden time. What do I do? And I had a friend come over, and she's like, well, you take the leaves off, and then you put some fertilizer and you dig it in, and this compost pile, like, just, dump it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it just grows. It seems like it's sort of like that, like just figure out how to have someone say, yes, this is what you do, and then just don't worry about too much else, right? I didn't need to know about the the pH balance of the soil right now, or the different See, I don't even know how to talk about it, but I can put the plants in and they'll grow. So good. Let's keep on. If you've noticed a recurring theme here is simpler, better.
I was in the car this weekend, and I had an audition to get in, and I couldn't get to my home studio, so I pulled over because the car is an amazing studio, and I plugged in my Shure MV88 to my iPad, which is the cutest thing ever made on the planet. It plugs into your iPad, and it gets rid of all the outside noise. And when I sent them in, my agent was like, "Well, those are good auditions." Yeah, those are my car and the iPad.
Yeah. And what is that little microphone called?
Shure, SHURE MV88. And
88.
It's a condenser mic, and it plugs into the iPhone, and they make them for, I think there's adapters to other phones, but why would you not have an iPhone if you're in VO? Anyway, it's a pretty darn good mic. I don't love it for animation because you have to kind of be right next to it. Mm. For animation, you're like, all over. Mm. But if it's going to be a pretty contained audition, there's nothing better for mobile auditioning.
Right. Cool. And actually, the mic on the iPhone itself isn't too bad, especially the newer ones.
It's just this one takes away, I think, more of the outside noise than the phone does. Although you're right, the mic is pretty incredible.
Cool. So Christy Crossley has a great question of like, how do you balance all that you do? How many VOs a day can you manage and still have family time? Aha!
I guess it depends. My son has piano practice. I can get an audition done in about 10 to 15 minutes. So if I have more than that, more than 4 or 5 a day, that's really cutting it because there's so much else to do in life. Mm-hmm. I usually try and schedule things around my voiceover schedule. And I know that after 2, I have to be available for my family.
Right. So you say this is my voiceover. So when you book a job, you say, this is when I'm available. Ideally, it works like that. Of course, we all go and whatever you need. Yeah. I think VO families learn to adapt pretty readily too. Like, hey, recording, no something, hold it down. Yeah. I actually have little, I have a little outtakes file from over the years of my kids coming in, and part of it's like, hey, I'm recording, shut up now. But part of it's like my kids coming in and saying stuff. So I have it like through the ages, which is kind of fun. But I think everyone, like finding, this is what I say to people at the dojo, that as you're beginning this work, you need to, there's so many things that is required to do this work. And so you're going to always be weaving this VO into the rich tapestry of your existing life. Ideally, as it continues to go, the cloth that you're weaving, like Debbie does VO all day and she does VO, right? So the cloth is mostly VO and in terms of her professional life, and then everything else she has to get done. So we're always doing this. If you're segueing to full-time work, you're going to be segueing your other job that you're doing and this. If you have a family, you're going to be figuring out when the baby's sleeping or when the kids are at school.
Yeah, you can't do video game auditions when somebody's sleeping. Or
right. Or when your neighbors, or even if you don't have kids, when your neighbors are flushing their toilets or their dogs are barking or something like that. So we're always working this in. And the busier you get, it's just a different rash of a different set of problems.
And there's never a schedule. If the schedule happens at 7 p.m., maybe. It always changes. You can kind of schedule things in, but you just never know. So if you're disturbed by unpredictability, then this might not be the career for you because it's never the same.
Yeah.
And you have to allow, if I have to drive down, say, to Mattel, I think Dan had to do this the other day, it takes, in Los Angeles, about an hour and a half to go to 12 miles. So it may take you 4 hours on the road to do a 10-minute job. And that takes up your whole day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think you just kind of figure out, I think of my voiceover as like a third kid, right? It takes priority. I can't not show up for it. There's some days when I'll say like, okay, well, that audition is not happening, or that just didn't happen. But in general, it needs to be a kid, and just like when the kid sprains his finger and you got to go get it from the doctor, So incorporating it as the third child is an interesting, or however many kids you have. Cool. Let's see. Oh my gosh, so many good questions. Kathleen asks, love doing book narrations, still have issues with mouth clicks. Happily also love to edit. Gives me great pleasure to find little spikes and waves, but it takes a lot of time. Okay. Debbie, you had a click answer.
2 click answers. One, on Adobe Audition, there's a little thing under the edits button, I think. It's called noise reduction, and you can go under there and click light mouth click removal. That's one. For me, barbecue chips work really good.
Really?
Coffee before auditions sucks. It makes you have little T's all over the place. And then if you've had, alcohol the night before, that'll dry you out. So you got to find something that makes it wet itself. Either that, or between takes, I suck my teeth, like, take a swig of water, clear your throat, start again. It seems to get rid of clicks when you start fresh. So for auditioning, don't plan on going all the way through if you're clicky.
Yeah.
So then you'll have less to remove, right?
Yeah. But you do have to go in there and remove that shit. I mean, we all do it. I mean, if you have to have coffee, you're going to have to remove your clicks.
Yeah. It's important to, from my point of view, and those systems do work. My philosophy is always do everything you possibly can physically to solve any noise problems, including mouth clicks, which, as Deb said, keep yourself hydrated. There's a number of different things that I use. I use this spray. It says, chloroseptic, but it's not chloroseptic anymore. It's something called Alkali, which is a mucus dissolvent sort of thing. It's mixed 20-to-1. You spray it 10 times in your mouth, you swish around, you spit it out. It just eliminates the clicks.
I want to get that. Does it make your tummy hurt like Listerine?
Not if you drink. If you drink it, it might.
No, all that stuff makes my tummy hurt. It lines my mouth. I swallow it.
Don't swallow it. Spit it out.
It's like
that works really well. There's lots of different cures. Don't ever look. Everybody's like, dang, you're the tech guru. Always look for the physical answer. Do not rely on technology to fix all this stuff. If you are a professional voice actor, you will find the things that will work for you to prevent the physical stuff, because if you can prevent the physical things, that will save you oodles of time. And if you're doing long format narration, you need to cut down your ratio of recorded time to produced time. There used to be 3-to-1. I've been able to get it down to about 1-to-1, which is actually pretty good, but I'm just really damn fast. But it takes years of practice to learn how to do that. And don't rely on the technology to fix that, because if you don't know how to use it, it will probably make it sound worse. And so I'd say just don't do that. Try to find the physical answer to that. If you don't know what something does, don't use it.
Cool. So once again, the simplest answer. The product that you're talking about is alcohol, right?
Alcohol. ALKOLOL. Yeah. Not alcohol. Alcohol. Ask for it by name.
If you live in Los Angeles, in Toluca Lake on Riverside Drive, next to that sushi place, like Foreman and Riverside, there's a little place that sells a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah, mailboxes, Toluca Lake mailboxes.
Yeah,
it's like a post office. It's like a post office in the front and a voiceover
warehouse.
Pharmaceutical, not pharmaceutical, because it's like all voice things. It's
liquid
magical.
drug items.
Yeah, it's pretty magical, and I think you can order online too.
Yeah.
So good. Here's a quick question from Michael Bybee. Dan, what preamp would you recommend for a Shure SM7B?
Mike, why are you using an SM7B? Boy, I'm in such a contrary mood today.
Don't do that.
Yeah, no, it's the SM7B is a dynamic broadcast microphone. So unless you're really like right on the radio, you really have no need for an SM7B. A lot of people like it because it sort of cuts down on the background noise, and but in order to get really good presence with it, or to sound natural, you have to be up close to it, and you have to be fairly close to the diaphragm. The problem is we don't talk half an inch from somebody's eardrum. So it's not giving a natural sound. And all these people are like, yeah, well, yeah, I got this SM7B. They say it's great. Are you booking work with it? Well, maybe an occasional promo job or something like that. Now, I know Mike works a lot. He's a very talented voice actor. If you must use an SM7B because somebody said this is the greatest thing since, sliced bagels, the thing that works best with it is a thing called a cloud lifter. It's made by Cloud, actually, and it's pretty nice. They were originally designed for ribbon microphones, which have very low output, and the SM7B has fairly low output. That will help, but there is no such thing as the best or this or that for anything. You want a preamp. If you use a cloud lifter, it'll give it enough gain that your regular pre-interface can carry it. But I just don't recommend using an SM7B. Much better to use a studio condenser mic. It picks up more noise, but again, the answer is physical isolation, not trying to mask it with technology. And the SM7B is not designed for voiceover. Any engineer that tells you that, they ain't helping you. Sorry again to be so contrary about it, but there's so much misinformation out there. I was talking to a distributor yesterday from SE Electronics who make really good microphones, and I had reviewed a bunch of stuff, and we were talking about making a microphone that is more adaptable to voiceover. The fact is all of this equipment that we use, not one shred of it, except for a tiny few examples, was designed for doing voiceover. We're borrowing this stuff. We are adapting it to our purposes. And adapting a broadcast microphone to sound like you as you exist in an environment in which you are recording is not the way to go. And that's why I usually insist on using a studio condenser mic.
Excellent. Good. Cool. Well, here's a great question from Dan Foster. In regards to the industry as it stands currently, what is it that every actor must know and or do to be competitive in today's animation and commercial markets? Well,
there's a college course right there.
Yeah. Let's see. You need to know, here's let me find something. At the Dojo, we talk about the rules of voiceover and the rules of the Dojo and the rules of voiceover. The rules of voiceover are share your truth, trust your voice, keep energy moving forward, listen carefully, and play fully. So those are sort of fundamental things that if you can take those concepts and incorporate them into everything you do, with every cell of your body and every part of your being, that's when it happens. And that's for all of the genres. I think you need to understand the nature of understand what it is you're stepping into. So get an overview, understand what it is. You need to understand yourself and be aligned with your voice, with nothing in between, so that you can share your truth. I think you need to be ready to, this is an art form that serves commerce. So you need to be in your awareness of doing everything you can for the rest of your life to be working on your art form and to understand and to develop your skills to a certain point. before you jump in to do the business part of it. I wouldn't show up after taking a 6-week ballet class and say, I'm ready for ABT. Can I audition? Like, no, you can't. You need to develop your skills, right? Could you be a very naturally skilled dancer? Absolutely. Yeah, so I think understanding that the people who are really successful and do this for a living, it becomes a way of life. This is how you live your life. Doing the work, how you do the work becomes part of the way of life. So be ready to joyously and ferociously go after it. That would be my answer.
My answer, a little more technically, I'm assuming you're a voice actor. Either join the union or don't. Get a great demo, get an agent, start auditioning, try to book. That's the long and short of it. It's a business. There are people who you can meet, Facebook friend, seek out, that might request you. Then you have a better shot of booking something. But if you're one of the masses and you don't know the producer or the director and you're just out there with the rest of us as a rank and file voice actor, then it is a numbers game. You might book 1 out of every 200, 300 auditions that you do. It's not easy. It's all day, every day. And it's not glamorous. And I think if you just remember it once, it's so fun. But once you're got your ducks in a row, like I talked about, then it's just the hard work. And it's not about rejection. It's you just have to be the right person for the job, and it's good if you can find your sweet spot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. One of the things we do at the dojo is a working pro workout called the VO Dojo Pro Fight Club, and it's designed to address a couple of, like, so many of these things. One of the things that Debbie just mentioned is about relationship. Who do you know? How do you get to know people who are doing this work and making choices? So at the Fight Club, we bring top-notch talent from a cross-section of agencies across the country, and the decision makers who hire us, and it turns the audition process transparent. So you get to see how the decisions are made and where you fit in, in terms of the audition process, right? And there was something else you just said. Shoot, I forgot what it is. But the relationship part and how you're building your skills with the people who are doing stuff is something else. How about you, Dan? What do you think? What are the keys
to success in voiceover?
To be
well,
know me.
Yeah. Well, that helps. Yes, as a matter of fact, it helps to have people who believe in you and trust in you and will recommend you to other people. This is a business, and it really comes down to networking. And it's not networking necessarily with a lot of other voice actors, unless you know people who are also hiring people. It's a matter of, if you get a job, really work on that relationship. This is a relationship business, because the money is not made so much in doing big commercial voiceovers. That's John Hamm's job for Mercedes and all these other things. There are opportunities there, but it's not a lot of people that are really fitting into there. You have to work your way up to it. And one of the ways you do that is by studying your butt off and really working hard with a great coach who really understands your voice and makes you sound like you're not reading the copy. That you don't become obsessed with your voice and become more obsessed with, how do I sound like I'm actually selling what it is I'm selling or talking about? And that is a process. That is not something you're going to learn overnight. It takes years. In the interim, keep auditioning and keep trying to get the opportunity. And when the opportunity comes, you gotta deliver. And like, don't do a demo, and like Deb said, until you are ready, or until a coach says, now you're ready. Because if you send out something that is kind of so-so, it's not going to do you any favors. Work is found here by people being very aggressive to people who need to hire voice talent. and creating those relationships and doing the cold calling. Agents you're not going to find an agent if you've never worked before. You have to have a track record. You've got to be able to make money. You've got to be successful at it. Let them come to you because you're really successful. Because if you go to an agent saying, hey, I can be really successful, they're going to go, yeah, that's great. They need to know that you're going to make them a living as well. So that means you have to be a very high earner or a very potential high earner to get an agent. So the obsession, notice how we're getting all these obsessive ideas about things in the voiceover business. These are things that happen as a natural occurrence. From doing all the basics that we've been talking about, making sure that you've got the talent to do it, that you are studying hard and working hard and practicing and auditioning as much as you can. Those are the things that lead to the other things. But while you're doing that, do the marketing. Look to the local places where you can do voice work and the regional places. And, one or two of the payer plays. There's one I wouldn't recommend. I think somebody was asking a question about that one, but we'll get to that later. It's one tool in your marketing kit. Your marketing kit is phone calls, email, research. Some people put together whole PR packages and stuff. There's lots of different ways to do it. There's lots of different systems for doing it. I used to sell life insurance, and I'm seeing a lot of people trying to sell these systems online that were essentially what we call the one-card system in life insurance. It was a one card, and it was like, okay, and you had this tickler file, and you kept going through it, and you keep going through those to try and find work. When you've been doing that for a while and you establish yourself, then it's time to move on to the next level. But the jump from, hey, I think I can make a living at this to, being able to buy a nice house somewhere is a really long distance.
And yet doable.
Oh, absolutely doable.
Yes, yeah. Debbie, what else did you have to add?
I just had a fun little example. I see Layla's with us. Hi, Layla. Layla, Lula, Lila, Lila. I never say it right. She was roommates with a friend of mine. She came and took my class. I was like, I'm impressed with this person. I'm not a casting director. I'm not an agent. But she stays in my mind. And when something comes up that I'm going, you know who you should call for this? So that is networking. And it's easy to find her. She has a great website. She has it navigationable. And kudos to you, Layla. And this is the business part of it that is going to help you segue. Anytime you take a workshop, here in LA, we have Voice Actors Network. We have Meet the Pros. You pay your money, yeah. You pay your $120, whatever it is. That gives you the permission to know this person, to contact them, to put them in your, I know this person, that's a contact of mine. And I paid $120 for that contact.
And they know you.
And that's how it works, and it takes time. These people that say, I'm going to go and give it a try for like 3 months in LA. Well, that's enough time to find an apartment.
Yeah.
I would say 3 to 4 years, give it a try.
And
but it's hard to make a living in it. You have to do lots of stuff.
Yeah. One of the images that I talk about at the dojo is if you think of the top of the mountain being a sustained, successful career, right? That wherever you are from sea level to summit, one mindset is when the helicopter comes, get on it, right? So if you have a friend who's like, hey, I've got a series, you want to do these voices? Go, yes, I would. And then step in, call somebody who knows what they're doing if you need it. Otherwise, just jump in. But don't think that you are an experienced mountaineer. And what it really takes to create a sustained, successful career is understanding what it is to be an experienced mountaineer. And Lila is a perfect example. I remember meeting her, I don't know, when did we meet, Lila? Like 4 years ago or something like that, 5 years ago. And she was just, we had a women in animation meeting, and she was just someone like, I'm going to do this. And I've watched her methodically, thoroughly. She works harder than anybody else I know in the most methodical
Except us. She works as hard as us.
Oh my God. But she she has gone after exactly what she wants. She's extremely talented, really knows exactly what she's bringing to the party. And she's also really lovable and really friendly and really involved in the community.
Oh, come on, she's crazy. She's crazy.
And she's crazy, and that's really what it takes to be successful and competitive. Okay. You do need a little bit of crazy. So, great. Lila will be our next guest. So, here's a great question. Jay asks, when you have a variety of character voices, how do you find the hook that will bring you back to the same voice every time? That's pretty cool.
That is a really good question. Mm-hmm. I think you just have to find kind of what it is. Like sometimes when I help people do their animation demos, we'll find that voice in that copy. And let me just answer another segue question someone wanted to know about the animation demo. I would take an existing animation copy or one you write yourself and make sure it has an arc and that the arc is completed in 8 seconds. I don't recommend demos that tell a story from start to beginning. Hi, this is my grandma. Hi, this is me as grandma. This is my niece. Hi, this is that. You know, I'm not into that. Anyway, going back to, God, totally forgot what we were talking about.
Why have you got the hook?
Yes. So when you do your demo, there'll be something like, where you take your buttermilk pie mix. And so if that's in my granny, in my animation demo, that's where you go. It's like a song. So when you have your demos made, just take a piece of that demo and that'll be your hook to get into it. I know so many people have their own little ways, but that is one way that I'm sure will work.
Yeah. For me, I think, you know, the heart of the word animation is bringing something to life. And so figuring out what is it that brings this character to life, what are they after, and what is their desire, and then letting the voice evolve out of that. Then you can always come back to that, what am I after? And then maybe find a catchphrase. Also, you know, when I was coming up, Pat Fraley's been one of my mentors throughout my career, and his methodology of the building blocks of animation, of figuring out placement and pitch. So how do you categorize a voice once you either create it or build it up and make choices about it? There's a methodology, and then you get that thing. I mean, find their catchphrase, right? What's Jimmy's catchphrase, Debbie?
Got a blast!
There you go. So you can reverse engineer to what's going to be on the lunchbox and the T-shirts, and let that be.
But if I couldn't find him with a catchphrase, I'd go, okay, where does it live? It's outside of my mouth. It's pushed down. Mm-hmm. It's 10 years old. Okay, so as opposed to another character that if I had to say, okay, where does it live? It's in my nose, and she has a lisp, and she's from the saddle. So as you layer these little pieces, if you can't find it immediately, you'll go, okay, well, what are the 3 components of that voice? But for me, catchphrase works really good. Once you've done it a bunch, then you're like, okay, I know how to get there. And if I'm in an animation session doing a few voices and I can't remember where that voice is, I'll actually ask the engineer to just save that ref file for me, and then throughout the session I'll say, throw me the reference voice, and then they will, and it's always like the same thing that the person says because it's the same little piece of the clip. And so that becomes my catchphrase for that character.
Yeah, good. Any thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, that's the system I use. You know, I've got a character that I use in a series that I work on. The voice is supposed to sound a little bit like Joe Pesci. That's where I came from. Hey, sounds like Joe Pesci, and then it just comes out of there from no problem. It just your brain goes into it once you develop that particular character. So everything Deb says. I mean, she's the master of this, and what she says goes.
I don't know nothing.
You don't know nothing. Yeah, right. You don't know nothing. That's right.
We got 10 more minutes, so we need a little bit of time for wrap up. So let's take a few more questions. Dan, I don't know. There's a bunch of tech questions. I don't know if you can pop them out in answering by text.
In rapid form, in rapid succession here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Christy asked about. I know. I'm still working on the acoustics of my recording space. If I don't have the funds for a booth yet, can I effectively hang thick blankets and use something like that weird eyeball or Alcatron's foam shield? Blankets, yes. The funny ball thing is great for playing volleyball at voiceover conferences. It's you know, again, it's not rocket science. A duvet, a thick blanket, yeah, those things work really, really well. Don't overthink this. Just hang it up there, see what it sounds like. Again, my philosophy is keep it really simple and not break the bank on these sorts of things. It's try something, and if it works, don't tell anybody. You know, it's pretty simple. Nobody needs to see how the sausage is made. So if a blanket works really, really well for you, I have found moving blankets work really, really well. Go over to Harbor Freight. They're like $6. You know, buy 4 or 5 of those, and I've built studios out of those that are, you know, people are booking work out of. So it's not about having a couch and a window and guitars hanging on the wall. It's about although Deb does have a couch in there. I got a couch in here too, but that's besides, and I do have windows, but that's besides the point. It's about you're in your closet, and I know a lot of people make an awful lot of money next to their pants and blouses and shoes and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty simple actually. You just need to cut down on the reflection. You need to understand the difference between sound transmission, which is sound coming from the outside in, and how to prevent that. That's a little harder to do, which is why an interior closet makes so much sense. And then it's preventing room reflection by using absorption or diffusion, which are terms that you can, you know, look up and you'll understand the difference or a combination of those two. Okay, let's see. Are there other tech questions here?
I wanted to hold on a second, Dan. I wanted to, if you can like get the tech questions answered by text.
Okay, I can do that.
To see, there's a great question here that's for performance. Mark asks, character creation review. Can you walk through the high placement, addition of mouth hardware, and addition of the accent? So are you asking can you demonstration of building a character? Can you clarify a little bit, Mark? I like the question. I think it might be a great place to finish up the action part, and hopefully Dan can get a lot of great tech questions. But actually, hold on one second. So let's see, what's the best way to do this? Let me actually have you come on, Mark, because it might be easier to, let me see if I can quickly calibrate. Those might be easier to hear your voice and ask this question. But I like it, and I want to finish up, but let me find all of my tools here. Crumbs. Or can you type a clarification on what you're asking?
Walk through the high placement. Oh, he's high placement, addition of mouth hardware. There's mouth hardware with addition of the accent. How do I do that?
Okay.
Well, those are things I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do, say, an urban accent. I can't do like East Indian accent. But the accents I can do, like my cartoon Australian accent, that would be here. Or maybe she's a soldier with an Australian accent. So, maybe that's just my thing, the high and the braces that I can do.
So can you, mouth hardware, yeah. So what do you, what do you think about, I remember one time we were working on a project, Debbie, and we were all in the room, and we were working on an anime project, and there was
somebody farted.
Everyone is someone farted. Yeah. And a character came out that hadn't been assigned, and the director went, okay, give me your best Brazilian favela boy. And we all went. And then Debbie went, and everyone was like, well, there it is, because hello. And you explained that because of your physical apparatus, that those voices come really easily for you because your head is the size of a child. So the thing that's making the sound comes easily for you. And then everybody kind of needs to understand, and what is the nature of your instrument, and then how do you make adjustments. So when you just created that voice, what did you do to, like, how would you articulate what you do? I
actually have a pretty good chapter in my book, Voiceover 101. It talks a lot about that. And it has a little game that you can play that describes it in there, where you can, technically break it down like a chemistry lab.
Mm-hmm.
Find out what's it sound like when your voice is here, or here, or here, or here. Start there. What accents can you do? Are you from Coachella like me? How is your Mexican accent? Or, how's your Valley accent or surfer accent?
Sure.
Put that on top of any of those.
And then mix and match. Right. It's like a big mixing board of like, oh, well, let's pull this in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe the drawing of the character. Maybe she looks like this.
Right. Let the physicality.
What sound comes out when I do that with my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it goes back to the playing part that we were talking about earlier.
And in video games, you have to just find characters all the time. And a good director will do. I had this one director that was like, okay, Debbie, you have a goblet of wine and you're on a yacht. Oh, I get that. Okay, this is what that sounds like. Right? So sometimes a good director will put you in where you need to be. Because those video games, you got to do 5-6 characters in one session. Quick.
Mm-hmm. Just is about making choices, making strong choices, understanding that when you make a choice, how do you commit and make sure you know how to calibrate it. Okay. I went here or okay. Yeah. So good. Well, this is fantastic. What a great turnout. What a great bunch of questions. If you want to get in touch with Debbie, I need a sign. Oh my God, I'm such. So take these down. Debbie and Dan are powerful resources. You can send Dan samples. You can talk to Debbie about getting coaching. At the dojo, we have bunches of stuff coming up. If you are in town, I have a few seats open for our You Should Do Voiceover Intensives, weekend intensive, 2 days, comprehensive overview, little taste of everything. Call me today. If you are in Atlanta, New York, or Chicago, or any place that you can drive to those places, I'm going to be doing one-day workshops in April and June. If you would like a voiceover summer vacation, I'm going to be teaching a week-long workshop at Maine Media Workshop in Maine, June 17th through 22nd. So anything you want to know about that, you can always call me for a voiceover once-over. If there's something that was sparked here, give me a call and we can talk more, and I can actually hear your voice. We do this the first Wednesday of every month. And we have different wonderful guest senseis. And Dan's here always getting the tech handled in the most simple and straightforward and tell it like it is way.
And he has, I got to tell you, Dan is like a, people that go with their little gold machine and they're like, or the water stick, there's water over there.
Divining rod, yeah.
A diviner.
He comes into your place and he walks in there and he goes, hello, oh, it's here. You need this here. He knows what the heck he's doing, and he's done this for me, for so many people I know, and you're pretty amazing with his ears. I know you can't see his ears when he's turned straight on, but if he turns sideways, those are pretty instruments right there.
That's so great. Yes, and I think there was a question about a review of the rules of the dojo and the rules of voiceover. I have that in the form of a door hanger that you can hang on your microphone. So I will send the PDF of that with a recording of this, so you guys can have that And let me know if you have any questions about that.
Can I do my brag?
Yes, of course. Please.
So please watch these following shows. That's for Family on Netflix. Catch up on season 2 because season 3 is going to be out later this year and it's crazy good. Buddy Thunderstruck on Netflix, Glitter Force, Hot Streets on Adult Swim. I'm not saying anything more except for there's a great YouTube video of Tigtone, Tigtone. Watch it. And there's Victor Valentino on Cartoon Network. And if you're in LA and you want to hear my band, we are singing April 15th in Toluca Lake at Riverside and Foreman at 1:15 for Earth Day. That's it. Thanks.
Yay! Awesome. And it's 11 o'clock. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us. And Dan, you are our anchor, and we loved having you here. We'll see you next month. And also, Fight Club is coming up with Jeremy Hall in LA on April 12th. So if you wanted more information about that, he's a video game director. All right, guys, recording of this will be out. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
Bye, Dan.
Toodaloo. Bye, Deb. See you later.
Yeah.
Bye, Tish. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.